What's going on YouTube? Sean here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're talking about Titans issue number 15. This one is written by Tom Taylor with art done by Lucas Meyer and colors by Adriano Lucas. This is a beautiful looking comic book. That's my highest praise for it. But this also marks the end of Tom Taylor's run on Titans, and I'm kind of glad because this has been kind of a pretty underwhelming run for the most part. There's some beautiful looking artwork. They do fix some of the character designs issues I've had earlier on in it, especially Raven, who looks great once more. And thank you thank you for fixing her with that, from that awful haircut that she had beforehand with the pink hair and all that too, which was just terrible to look at. So Raven looks great in this comic book. That's my highest praise I can say of it. And it's cool we get like the return of White Raven, but at what cost? At what cost, DC? So, yeah, so the last things, we've been setting up this whole Dark Winged Queen thing. Now, this issue takes place right before Absolute Power, as we come to find out. I was trying to figure out the timing of it, so it kind of lessens the impact of literally everything going on and this thing, because I know immediately afterwards we're going into the events of Absolute Power, and we're also going to get a new creative team next month, so ultimately it kind of led to something that just felt a little bit underwhelming. So, Trigon was there. You have the Titans and members of the Justice League coming in to try and stop them. And Raven's able to kind of break free of her control of her little prison she was trapped in after a little bit of a, somebody kind of breaks the gem free. And it's her confronting the Dark Winged Queen, half of her personality. And ultimately, the solution of it is for Beast Boy to give some sort of sappy speech to tell Raven something that she should probably figure out on her own, that the Dark Winged Queen is still part of Raven. Ultimately, you're part of the same person, and that's why I didn't attack. So, yeah, Raven can't figure this out on her own. We can't have her come to this resolution on her own. Beast Boy has to explain the whole thing to her. And I'm sorry, but it really does undermine Raven as a character when she can't do this stuff on her own. Gar literally is like super glued to her side. She can't do anything on her own anymore, and it's really just kind of annoying. And I get, characters have love interests and all that, but there's time and a place where a character has to kind of do something on their own. Like, this would have been a good moment for Raven to come to this realization about the Dark Winged Queen part still being ultimately a part of her before they ultimately merge together. But no, Gar has to come in, give some like sappy speech, and everything just kind of resolved that way. Wow, a Tom Taylor book that's resolved with a sappy speech. I haven't seen that before. Just kidding, I'm being a little sarcastic. So, but yeah, it's resolved with a sappy speech, and then ultimately they fuse together, and we get White Raven, which is awesome to see. Like, I love White Raven, but at what cost? At what cost? Look at that. He's even holding her hands because that's the way they kind of fuse together. Why couldn't Raven do this on her own? Even, as somebody pointed out to me as I was talking about this book before I kind of went ahead and hit record, we're talking about how somebody like even mentioned to me like the Teen Titans versus Teen Titans Go movie, which is, a lot of the plot's kind of similar to what they're doing in this thing. Even Raven comes to the realization about like her demon half still being a part of her on her own. So she has her own agency. And even in that movie, the Teen Titans Go version still is in a relationship with Gar. But she ultimately comes to this decision on her own. Like, she comes to this realization about her other, part still being a part of her, like the demon half. Like, she comes to that resolution on her own. Her own agency is still present in that. This book, it's not there. Gar has to explain the whole thing to her because Raven's apparently not good enough to do this on herself. So, yeah, that's something that kind of irritated me. Would have preferred it was just Raven and her other half having the conversation instead. But no, Gar has to come in. A speech is all it takes to stop the Dark Winged Queen, which is just it's kind of annoying. I'm like, come on, this thing just took out the Spectre, and all it takes is just, hey, let's talk. And we're good. That's just, everything is resolved with just talking nowadays. But yeah, so that's what happens there. We also get one moment that's a callback to Tom Taylor's Injustice, where Nightwing gets kind of crushed by a rock, because that's just kind of I guess that's kind of more of a self-gag, because I think he got roasted pretty badly for the Nightwing smashing his head on a rock and dying in Injustice. So it's kind of like a self-gag, like, okay, I'll own up to that one. So that one I didn't mind quite as much. But yeah, White Raven comes in, able to stop Trigon. She kind of forms a new crown with the Titans as kind of her jewels. And yeah, Trigon is defeated. And yeah, that's pretty much a resolution to that thing. We got White Raven back, and then in the next panel, she's back to her normal self. Like, what happened? Did she depower? I thought she came to the resolution that, we're one and the same. So shouldn't she just be in that getup, or is it like a Super Saiyan thing where it's just not there? So yeah, then they decide to go confront Amanda Waller about this whole thing. And the final line of this book, and the final line of Tom Taylor's run, legitimately makes me laugh, because this is set right before absolute power. So let's go ahead and read it really quick. It doesn't matter how low you sink, we will never let you in. This planet doesn't belong to Amanda Waller. This world is protected by the Titans. Well, you guys did such a terrible job, because look what happens in absolute power. 95% of the heroes basically all get depowered. There's chaos all over the place. So yeah, the Titans haven't done a really good job protecting the planet. And even in this book, like we're going to replace the Justice League. Yeah, what a great idea. Yeah, so like that line unironically became legitimately very funny at the end of it, because like the world is protected by the Titans. Then immediately afterwards, absolute power happens. Well, maybe not so much. So that just kind of made it unintentionally funny, because immediately after this, we're like, the world is screwed in like absolute power, and most of the heroes lose all their abilities, and a lot of things bad happen for the heroes. And yeah, we still got like one more issue left of absolute power, and then we have DC All In and all the other stuff going on. But yeah, so it's not a good look for the Titans. And again, I think absolute power happening the same time as this story arc, just it doesn't really like flow quite as well. It kind of lessens the impact of this thing. Granted, we also just had Beast World right beforehand, and then we have this thing, and then it's absolute power, and DC's continuity is kind of hard to follow sometimes. But yeah, so my favorite thing about this issue, Lucas Meyer's artwork, Raven especially, looks great once more. We got rid of that awful pink hairdo that just looked terrible from the early issues, and they finally fixed it, and like Raven looks great again. So that's my main praise here. The artwork looks fantastic. Raven looks great. It was cool to see White Raven. Not sure why White Raven is gone like the moment we kind of flipped to the last page. Would have been cool to see it stick around for a little bit, but yeah, then we have absolute power, so we're not going to get that White Raven anymore. So not sure why White Raven is just gone, but hey, it just sort of happened. So yeah, Trigon is defeated, because it's the only storyline we can do with Raven really is Trigon anymore. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Tom Taylor's Titans run. I kind of just fell off as this year. It didn't start out really good to begin with. I thought Beast World was probably the strongest aspect of it, but they never like, everything just felt kind of not so impactful, just kind of underwhelming. Like you have some big moments in here, but then they're just immediately resolved with kind of ease. There's no real lasting consequences, I felt like, with really anything. Beast Boy supposedly dying would have been a bold choice. It would have actually felt like an emotional impact, but no, Gar apparently is just immune to dying. Like he just can't get rid of this guy. And I know it sounds I sound harsh, because I actually legit do like Beast Boy as a character, but I mean, the man literally like is impossible. You can't kill him anymore. Like he is indestructible. So every story with him, there's no stakes. Like he can split himself into a million pieces like Garo, and then somehow come back just fine. And like he can get shot in the head point blank and survive. Like he is invincible. Like he is unkillable at this point, at least in the main book. So would have been cool to have some lasting consequences and feel the impact. But the only characters who stay dead anymore are Alfred, and I guess if you're Bruce Wayne's friend. Then again, Thomas Wayne comes back sometimes, so I don't know. So, but unless you're Alfred, you're just gonna stay dead, or Uncle Ben. But that's Marvel. So yeah, I'm kind of getting off track and all over the place with this book. But yeah, I love Lucas's artwork, and I'll miss him on the title. New creatives coming in, so hopefully they do some good stuff. I have no idea who they are, or if they're going to be good or not. So I'm going in with like low expectations, because we haven't had a really good Titans or Teen Titans book in the main universe in like present time in quite a while. Heck, like I'm getting nostalgic for the 2016 like DC Rebirth like Teen Titans book, because that one had its problems, but man, it was so much better than the stuff we're getting nowadays. And it's just kind of a sad thing to say. You know what? I think we do need a Teen Titans book. We have a Titans book, but I think we also need Teen Titans, or maybe just make it really, really good. So there are some good books I think are coming up. I think Justice League Unlimited by Mark Waid with Dan Moore on the artwork, I think that's going to actually be legit really good. And I'm curious about this whole Absolute Universe stuff that they're going to be planning. So new creatives, hopefully we get some life injected into these books, and we get some really good solid storylines. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. This one just kind of went on a little bit of a whimper. I don't like how Raven didn't really have much agency on her own. Gar had to kind of explain the whole thing to her, and it would have been so much more impactful if Raven came to that conclusion on her own, as opposed to having Gar there to kind of tell her everything like that. So had you not done that, like Gar coming up there, his little speech, because everything is resolved in quick speeches anymore, I would have much preferred that. Because like if Raven broke free and then was her talking to herself and then convincing your other part of herself, like, look, you didn't do all this stuff, that's because you do care, would have been fine. You didn't need Gar there. You could have had Raven do this all by herself, but no, she can't escape that green guy. So Man, I seemed really harsh on Beast Boy. And like I said, I want to emphasize, I do like Beast Boy as a character. I just want Raven to kind of do things on her own for once. And stuff that doesn't necessarily mean Trigon. Like, give me Marv Wolfman back to write another Raven, Daughter of Darkness thing. Have her go to the Justice League Dark. Please, for the love of God, move Raven to Justice League Dark. Keep her away from the other Titans members. Have her work with Zatanna Constantine. And I will be very grateful, DC. Like, have Marv Wolfman or someone come and write that book. Like, that would be awesome. But we'll just not get it. Like, she'll never escape the endless loop of storylines involving Trigon. I get it's her father, but it's really all we seem to do. And she can't do anything on her own unless Beast Boy is there. So, yeah, just some complaints there. But Lucas Meyer's artwork is fantastic. Want to reiterate that constantly. But, yeah, so this storyline's wrapped up, and I'm just ready for a new creative team. So, yeah, Titans was just... It exists. I didn't despise the issue, but I do have some complaints about it, and I think it could have been better. But, yeah, at least we got to see White Raven. That was pretty cool, and it's cool to see Trigon get his ass kicked, which it's fun to do. But the ending line is unironically very funny because it leads right into absolute power, so which we've been seeing kind of going on simultaneously. So, yeah. But anyways, I have rambled on way too long. Not huge into this comic book, not the worst thing I've read, but just a few things just kind of like bug me just a little bit. So what did you think of the comic book? Post your comments down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. I'm sure some fans of Beast Boy are just going to be really mad at me. But again, I still like the character. I just want Raven to do things on her own for once. I'd want Gar to have, like, if the roles were reversed and like it was Raven having a speech, no, I would have wanted Gar to come to this on his own too. So like you can kind of replace it with any two characters. Just give a random example. Say a situation like this, it's Batman and Catwoman, right? I wouldn't need Batman to give that. I would have rather had Selena kind of make the decision on her own. So it could be, you kind of insert any characters in the situation, and I would have felt the same way. So that's my dissatisfaction with how, like, we need someone else to kind of explain the thing to him. So in order to kind of come to like the conclusion on their own. But anyways, I've rambled on long enough. No more talking about Titans. I'm done. And yeah, that should wrap it up for the DC comic book reviews for this week. I will see you all again whenever I cover comic books again, or any other type of after the movies, or what other random video I decide to do. So I got to do a solicitations video, so I'll probably get to that this week. So I'm always behind on this stuff, but yeah, because we didn't talk about December yet, so completely forgot about that. So thanks for reminding me, Sean. But anyways, that's all I got to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then.